Hi, and welcome to the Improved Garage YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, please click the subscribe button. So today I have an order to unbox that I actually ordered last night and arrived this morning. So this is from NM or NM Engineering, nmengineering.com. NM is it's like New Speed but for Mini. So it's New Speed is their Volkswagen company. So in this box, I have, these are Koni, Special Active Struts. So I think that these two are going to be the rears. And then in this box, I should have the rest of my order. These should be the fronts. And these are lowering springs. So these are the NM RS Alpha springs. They're about $300 for the set. They're running a deal right now for the holiday season. It's 10% off, so they're about $270 right now. Come with instructions. They are individually packaged. I don't see any, they look good. These are supposed to ride really well because they have a progressive spring rate. And then these special actives are supposed to be pretty good struts, with the caveat that you can't lower a car significantly on them. So if you're dropping it like an inch or an inch and a half, they're supposed to be great. If you're going to be dropping it more than that, it's not a good answer. So this is a rear. And then this right here is a front. I don't know if this one's right or left, but they are side dependent, so there is a right and a left. This one has an R, 1377R, and this one has an L, 1377L. I always struggle with that. I don't know if that means the left side of the car if you're looking at it from the back. I would assume that that's what it is, but so here is the L, and hardware pieces for that. And then we have one more rear. The rears are not side dependent. So I will say I called NM yesterday. I talked to a lady there who was really knowledgeable. She chatted with me for about 20 minutes about these, their sway bars, and a couple other things. And I was ready to order them. She mentioned that she had a set in stock. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I ordered them. They shipped out Friday evening at 4 o'clock, and today's Saturday, and I received them. So pretty happy about that. So I'm going to get these installed. I'll record one side so that you can see what it looks like, and we'll go from there. All right, so for the installation, we're going to start off by jacking up the side of the car. Now, I've already done the driver's side. So I'm going to do the passenger side on camera. I'm using my floor jack, and I'm lifting by the front jack point, and I'm lifting the entire side off the ground. Not tremendously high, but just enough that the back is up. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I'm going to rotate these tires while I'm doing this. Just a good opportunity, since I'm taking them off anyway, to rotate them. So what I found you need is 13, let's see, sockets. 13, 16, 17, 18, 19. In wrenches, I've used a 13, a 19, a 16, and a 17. Also in an external Torx or an E socket, I've used an E20. and an E12, and spring compressor, T30 Torx. Socket would work as well, T30 on a socket. Actually, that's probably better because you need that for the back. So first thing I'm going to do is take the wheel off. I'll take both front and back off. All right. So just kind of go over what we have to do here. So we're changing out this spring right here that I'm touching, and we're changing out this strut that is right here. The strut is mounted on the bottom underneath this plastic cover, which just unsnaps. So we pop this off, and there is an E20 behind there. What I will say is that this strut is keeping this assembly from moving down. It's actually holding it up right now. So you need to put a jack underneath here to support that. So you do need 2 jacks. So let's do that. You just kind of want to jack it up until it starts to lift the car, then you're probably high enough. So we're going to remove this E20 from the bottom of the shock or strut. Now that we have that off, we want to remove this sway bar end link from the sway bar side. And to do that, you're going to need the T30. So you need a T30 to hold this while you use a 16mm wrench to loosen up this nut. And this is another one that's kind of under stress, so you just need to be careful when removing this. So as you can see, this bolt is starting to tip up. So what I'm going to do is just jack up the back a little bit more. Until I get to the point that it's a little bit closer to straight. And remember, the sway bar, or anti-sway bar as it should be called, is designed to keep the car level. So when you lift up one side, it wants to lift up the other. So we're going to pull this out, kind of get it out of the way there, and then we can lower this knuckle out of the way. And as it lowers down, you'll see actually it's kind of all the way, it's actually lower than my jack goes. So now this spring can kind of be popped out of here if you just push down on this corner a little bit, which is way easier than the front. So that can kind of pop out like that, nice and easy. And then you can remove the strut. There are three E12. There are 3 E12, 1 and 2 in the back. So let's remove those quick. And all I'm using is an E12 on a 1/2 inch or a 3/8 ratchet. Okay. So here we've removed this. So now let's come back here. And I'll show you what we want to do with this. So here is the replacement. It does come with a new nut and a wiper, I guess it would be called. So it's this guy. So the wiper is going to sit on here like that. And the hardest part here is that we need to remove this nut inside there. So that is a 16, and the center of it is a 4mm hex. So sometimes you can get lucky and you can impact these off. I wasn't so lucky, but I happen to have a 16mm spark plug socket that has this hex on it. So what I did was I used this along with this and an 18mm wrench, and I was able to loosen this up. Now, this isn't under pressure or anything like the front one is. It's not a coilover, it's just a strut. So all we're removing is this upper mount. And if you get new mounts, you wouldn't have to deal with this. So that comes off, that comes off. This comes off, this comes off, and this comes off. Now, we want to remove this, and they instruct you to cut this on this line right here, where the dust boot was previously mounted, and then you'd mount the dust boot on this next one. So I'm just kind of using, it'll come off like that. And you take this, you shove it in the dust boot like that. That goes over the new one. Like that. Then you take this washer that was on the factory shaft and you put that back on. And then this goes on there. And this will sit up in that pocket like that. And then this is where it gets tricky. Interesting. So Koni gives you new nuts for the top of these, and they're like nylon lock nuts. But that nut is a 17mm, which makes it challenging for me to do my trick with the socket. So with this, I just used my impact gun and I impacted it on there. So ideally, you would have a 17mm socket with a hex like this that you could use for this step. I don't. So you'll see that I'm able to kind of impact that down there pretty well, which should be more than enough. And this plastic cap snaps back on, just like that. And then this can go back in the car. So this goes up in the pocket like that. We're going to reuse the factory E-Torx bolts. All right. So now next, we're gonna get the spring ready. So we have the old spring here. We have the new spring here. And you will see that on the side it says NM. So you want that to be readable. That side up. So this rubber thing just pops off the factory spring. The aftermarket spring pops into it like that. And that's what you have. You'll see there's a little nub here. There's also a little hole in the back on the bottom where that was sitting. So we're going to put that in the hole and then push this arm down underneath that rubber nub. So now we've got our spring in place so that we can reconnect our sway bar end link and our strut. Okay. So we lifted this up. We can put our end link bolt back through the hole like that. Put the nut back on. Looks like I'm going to need a little bit more height because I've got a little bit of an angle here. So there we go. Now we're more straight. Again, we're going to use the 16mm wrench along with a T30 on the ratchet. Tight. And then we will reconnect our lower strut assembly with this bolt. All right. Make sure it's tight. We can let down our jack. And then we can snap our cover on. Cover goes like this, snaps onto the back. And that corner is done. All right, front is way harder than the back. So, start off. The sway bar end link needs to be removed, which is right here. The this clamp needs to be loosened, which holds the bottom of the strut in. On the top, this unsnaps, and there are 3 13mm that hold it in, as well as a nut that removes this cap. So that was where I struggled last time. Remove the end link, lower this corner. So for this, it is a 16 on this side and it is an 18 on that side. So I used a 16 in my impact gun. Pull this out. So now this can come off the bottom of this shock. Okay, so that's the way to do it. Remove the bottom first. Okay, so we remove the bottom. Then up top, we have 13 millimeter bolts to remove. So there are 3 of those. They're right here, underneath the dust cap. And that pulls out. Okay, so now for this, we need to reuse this cap. So we have to remove that, which is fun. So that is an 18 millimeter that I impacted off, and it wasn't easy on the last one, so we'll see how it is on this. There we go, easy enough. So I found that I was able to impact this off when there was tension on the spring, but when I was compressing it with a spring compressor, I wasn't able to. So this in here is a bearing, and this bearing is supposed to be lubed. So what you're supposed to do is you take something like this skin wedge tool and you pry up the bearing all the way around like that. And you'll see in here there's a bearing. So you're supposed to clean out the grease in here and then re-grease this. So we'll do that quick. If you do decide to do this, just be careful you don't lose all the bearings. Or be prepared for the fact that you may. I mean, I have another car I can drive if I screw this up and I have to buy another cap. So maybe if you don't have another car to drive, you don't do this part, or you buy the cap ahead of time just in case you need to open it. So pull that out, a little bit of grease, and what I'm going to do is just kind of put it here in the spot where the bearings ride, all the way around. And this just snaps into place like that. want to make sure that it's smooth. Okay, so next we are going to reuse this boot. Ideally yours is not ripped, mine has one small tear in it. If yours is ripped, you probably want to order one before you do this project. You're going to take this and you're going to cut it right here along this line. They're the same as the last one. That. So we are going to take the new shock like that and the new spring, and again NM logo that way. We're going to remove this rubber piece and we're going to move that over to here, just like that. And there is like a little nub and a socket that it sits in, just like that. Put this on here first, like that. Okay, so we've got our assembly put together. This goes in. So now we have to put the cap on. So this is where you're going to need a spring compressor, because you're not going to be able to do this without one. So grab a spring compressor. If you don't have one, you can rent one from AutoZone. I went to AutoZone and bought it. It was 40 bucks. And I did that because we'll end up doing springs on the Miata, or I'll end up doing springs on something else in the future. So spring compressor has two of these arms like this. Put one on each side like this, and then we will tighten these. So we used our spring compressor. Install this on the struts. Like that. And we can put our nut on here. Now again, Koni gives you a new nut. Oh, I missed something. Oh. Oops. Let's pull this out really quick. So they do give you this wiper, which goes on the shaft down here. So that's there. This. Really the goal here is to get it started. So we've got it up to the nylon. We're gonna give it a hit with this. And then what we'll have to do is we'll have to let off some of the pressure so that that can tighten it down. Okay, got that nice and tight. Ideally, you would have an 18 with a hex on it that you could grab it with. I don't, so I can only impact it as tight as I can get it. But there we are. Installation is going to be the opposite of the removal. I'm going to start off by poking this up in there. Just like that. I'm going to take my 13s. And get them finger tight. Then I will take my 13mm and I will tighten them the rest of the way. So there we are, all back together. Now down here, this is where it gets fun. So we have to turn this around so that that's on the back side like that, and this is flat here. Then we can put this into place. And we can use the jack on the lower control arm to lift it up. Now, something to be careful about, and I ran into this on the other side. Your drive shaft goes into a CV joint right there, and there's like a fork that sits in a pocket, and it might not be lined up because this drooped out. So you might find that you have to kind of twist this back and forth a little bit to get it to seat into place properly, or you won't be able to push this back. So it appears as though mine's good. I'm gonna continue to jack this up. I found that you kind of want to work this back and forth as you lift. And so we use our jack to get this in. I had to spread this one out a little bit on this side. The driver's side I didn't. Then we can tighten this bolt back up, which is a 16 on one side, 17 on the other. And we can reconnect our sway bar once we lift this up high enough to do so. Okay, so that's up. We will lift this to connect the sway bar. Just like that. And that gets this 16mm bolts. Now we can drop this back down. And we can tighten up the top. Alright, so I've got the springs installed, struts are installed, everything looks good. I think the ride height is excellent. Sorry, box is in the way, but yeah, it looks really good. And the NM springs, I went from being able to put like 3 fingers here to being able to put 2 here. So I dropped it by the width of a finger. It's about 1 inch, and I think their website claims like a 1.2 inch drop. It's been rainy this week, so I've only driven the car once, but it rides really well. I'm really happy with the ride quality, the comfort. It feels really good. Car feels tight, stiff, but not. It's not a harsh ride. So even on I'm driving it around the rain, there's crap on the road. There's normal cracks, crevices, bumps, things like that. It's not like jarring my teeth out of my head. It's a little bit stiffer, but the progressive springs are really good. So I would definitely recommend them. The Koni Special Actives are really nice. I think the ride quality is good on those. I'll get to test it out a little bit more on some more spirited drives now that it's dried up a little bit. But I think the height looks good. I think the wheels look good, and there's no rub. Everything just fits really well. So very happy with the purchase. We'll do again, and then next thing, I actually ordered a rear sway bar, an NM rear sway bar, which includes the rear sway bar clamps and the rear sway bar end links. So I'll be doing an installation of those. The sway bars are out of stock right now, so when I receive it, then I'll do the video. So I don't know if that'll be a week, a month, 2 months. I have no idea. So thank you for watching, and have a great day.